Honestly, that could be. I check nothing.
I don't think you ever
I've
once
never
looked over a contract.
Every form you've ever sent me, I've just said, and signed it.
You just
That's
click,
it.
sign,
Sign.
send.
Trust.
And I'm over here in the corner like, ha.
Every time there's money sent to me, I'm like, cool. I never have like
fact
looked.
check it. I've actually been taking $100 out of each paycheck that you get just to see if you notice.
Are you telling me I could be rich? You ho. Okay.
Should that be the intro?
Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Safe. Spring is in bloom, and you know what comes next? Vacation season.
Let's go.
But before you pack your bags, be sure to secure your home with Simply Safe Home Security. With Simply Safe, enjoy greater peace of mind knowing your home is monitored around the clock by trained agents ready to act and defend against break-ins, fires, and other threats.
Simply Safe has Fast Protect technology for fast response, which enables monitoring agents to visually verify that the threat is real and conveys eyewitness evidence to 911 dispatch for fast police or fire response, which is so incredible when there's an actual real threat. And like I said earlier, you can control from anywhere, anytime. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, you can stay connected from anywhere, anytime. Arm or disarm your system remotely, check your cameras to make sure everything is okay, or even unlock the front door to let a guest in.
Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/advice. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off your order with interactive monitoring. That's simplysafe.com/advice. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Today's episode is brought to you by Canva. Creating visual content is an essential part of what we do, but the creative process hasn't always been easy. We discovered we had a really hard time with taking what we brainstorm and putting it into physical product.
That is a process right there. Yeah.
Me and Ash are queens at just all the ideas of how we want to be organized, the content we want, all these things. But
Zero follow through.
That is until we met Canva for Teams. It has been easy to collaborate and design with our team, which makes the whole process so much more fun and creative.
Canva for Teams is a design platform that makes it easy for anyone to create stunning content in any format, from social media posts to videos, presentations, and websites. The endless templates and premium fonts, photos, graphics, and videos add personality and edge to our team's content. As we have grown as a podcast, so has our team. With features designed for brand consistency, Canva for Teams makes it easy to maintain your aesthetic and add your logos, fonts, and colors to anything you create. Canva for Teams streamlines how we do social media too. We can plan, create, and even share social media content directly to our channels, all from one place.
Collaborate with Canva for Teams. Right now, you can get a free 45-day extended trial when you go to canva.me/advice. That's canva.me/advice for a free 45-day extended trial. Canva.me/advice.
You know what's funny? Because a fun fact is I used to run.
Wait, are we like recording the episode? Yeah. Oh, sick. Okay. I just was checking. I was just making sure.
A fun fact is I used to do the social media for Pretty Basic back in the day when they first started. To this day, anytime I try to think of our soundtrack, all I hear is theirs.
Oh my God, that's what I said. I literally
Really?
I started singing. And then I was like, I looked at Mandy and I was like, wait, is that Pretty Basics?
Yeah.
And then I kept singing it and I was like, I literally don't know. But it happened to be right.
Yeah. It's so funny because my immediate thought is I hear their song and I'm like, that's not your song. And then because I have their song in my head, I can't think of ours.
I mean, most like non-copyright music.
It all sounds the same.
It kind of like all sounds
all epidemic.
It sounds like they're like cousins. Yeah. Everything sounds like they're slightly related.
Definitely related songs.
Yeah. Also, I just realized I'm wearing a black sweatshirt and I was wearing a black sweatshirt last episode.
That's actually one of my favorite sweatshirts. I borrowed it multiple times.
Yes. Yeah. It's from Walmart, the men's section.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Sweatshirt.
Yeah. It's literally first of all, Walmart right now, in the men's section, there's a wall. And it's in every Walmart, it's different places. In my local Walmart, there's like this huge, like right when you walk in the men's section, there's a huge wall, and it's just like stacks of like plain colors, and it's just sweatshirts and sweatpants of like every size you can imagine.
Should we go after this?
Absolutely.
Actually, I need like a
Ashley, yes.
I need what you're wearing.
It's about time you take advantage of the weird things that I'm good at, which is finding baggy clothes. So I got you. But it's like in the men's section, you know, it goes up to like 3X, 4X.
Right, yes.
So a men's 3X, 4X, like you're swimming in it.
Right.
And it's my favorite because you can just wear like leggings, like it goes past your butt. It's so comfortable. So I'm telling you guys, don't sleep on Walmart.
Listen,
for that.
I might make you come with me to Walmart after
Let's
this.
freaking go.
If you guys don't know, Taryne and I are going to Italy this weekend.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to Italy this weekend for our friend's wedding.
Get my passport.
Taryne's having a passport crisis. I'm currently trying to get 100% better.
I know.
I'm still kind of sick. You can probably hear it in my voice, so I'm going to apologize for that ahead of time.
Yeah.
But we're going to Italy this weekend, and I have like one good sweatshirt. I love wearing all black on flights because inevitably I spill.
Yeah.
So it's like head to toe black. And I need like another one that's like, I don't care about if it gets dirty.
Yeah.
And that's that Walmart find. That sounds perfect.
I've washed this like 50,000 times because now that I have a niece, it's getting a little bit better because she doesn't, she's like not drinking from a bottle all the time. Like when babies drink from bottles, like they just like
spit up all the time.
It's like milky all the time. It's disgusting. But she is teething. So every time I see her, even if I'm like, literally I'll walk in the house, walk to find her. If my brother has her, I just like snatch her, and then I'll like go take my dog out while I'm just like holding her for a second. But even if I hold her for 2 seconds, whatever I'm wearing is done. Like there's just like snail like marks like everywhere. So I literally wash the sweatshirt like all the time, and it gets better with age. It's like wine. It's like a fine wine.
A good piece of clothing, I feel like, should get better with age because it gets softer, it gets a little heavier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's when you love it the most.
Yeah. And I throw it in the dryer.
Yeah.
And it's not it's like shrunk immensely. Yeah. Like it's just top notch.
Listen,
for sweatshirts,
we're going to Walmart after
this.
Let's
go, dude. Sometimes they'll have more colors, but most of the time it's like black, gray, navy blue. Like
can't wait for our Walmart photo shoot.
Right? Like in front of the sweatshirt. The men's section.
Listen, if we go, we're going to post it on our socials.
Oh, absolutely.
You better believe it.
Let's take a pic.
Also, I just really wanted to do a little PSA shout out. Taryne did a solo episode.
I did.
Last week. So if you haven't heard it, you should definitely, after listening to this episode, go to the episode before because Taryne did a solo epised. She saved my life.
If you guys think she sounds
there wouldn't have been an episode
right now.
It was a little more like
it was rough.
It was deep rough. And it was scratchy and not in a like sexy way.
Poor honey.
It was in a honey, what's going on kind of way.
Rough. Rough
and
stuff.
I felt bad because I had gotten back from Japan, and the whole reason we had to do an emergency episode in the first place was because we were out of episodes because I took a random last minute trip to Japan. And so I call and I was like, listen, I'm sick, but I've been sick for a while, so I don't think it's contagious anymore. I'm like, I'm just going to power through. And then Taryne, and I knew I sounded bad, but Taryne was like, Ashley.
No
one wants to hear that.
Wants it.
So,
yeah.
You got a Taryne solo episode, a rare gem. So definitely go listen to it. Also, it would just mean the world to us, to Taryne and I, if you would just rate, review, share our
absolutely
podcast. Take the time, give us a few stars, leave a nice little comment, and do your homework and share this podcast with your friends and family. That's all we're asking. It's not a big ask.
It's not a big ask. Unless you're driving, be safe. But
spread the good news
of
our podcast.
Absolutely.
The gospel.
Today I was driving here, and our producer Michaela, like, she'll send with our link that's like our episode. There's like a link that's like, hey, here's a few like snippets if you want to use for socials, right? So I had those just like randomly playing because I was like, oh, what did I talk about? Because I kind of blacked out a little. And a freaking cop pulled up next to me, and I was like, oh my God, because it's a video, right? Even though I was just listening to it, still like that's like you can get a ticket for that. And so I like reached up really quick to like shut my phone off. And then he immediately slows down and I'm like, no, I don't want a ticket. And so then I immediately again reached back up and tapped my phone. So like my maps came on.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe if I do that, he'll be like, oh, she was like touching her phone because of like maps.
Yeah.
So I do that and like I'm being super dramatic, like looking like I'm trying to figure out like where I am. And the whole time he was like going fast and he totally like had slowed. It was just us two like parallel, right? And I was like, I don't see you. Like you don't exist. I'm not doing anything sketchy at all.
Yeah.
And so then finally like he stayed a minute. And then after I did that and the maps thing came up, then he took off.
Yeah.
I was so scared the whole time. I was like, not me getting a ticket for watching myself.
Yeah.
Like how embarrassing.
The most shallow,
Right?
self-absorbed,
I'm an officer.
classic influencer move.
Ew,
Watching your content while you're driving.
I hate it. Anywho, Ash, you're
Taryne.
back from Japan.
Japan.
How was it?
Oh my God, it was incredible. We
All your stuff looked
such good
so
food.
pretty.
Yeah. So in the past, anytime I did a crazy cool trip, I would always vlog. And I don't even know if you guys care to hear about this, but content these days has been so frustrating. Like I haven't been able to figure out my niche, but instead of vlogging horizontally on YouTube or for like long form content, I did vertical content and it was so fun for me.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very like artsy. It was cool.
It was fun. It was exactly what you would find on my YouTube channel, but just like shorter and vertical. So that was really fun. We have a family friend who lives there, and it was so fun getting to like be more local and more. It was more of a chill trip instead of like running around being tourists.
Touristy, yeah.
Which was so fun. I felt way more immersed in the culture, I guess, because we were in a smaller hotel in like a neighborhood area instead of like in the center of the city where all the other tourists go. So that was really fun. I ate so much sushi, lots of noodles, ramen, soba, udon, like all the noodles.
All the things.
Absolutely delicious. And it was just really, really great.
That's so cool.
It was so
No,
fun.
it looked really fun.
And it was a complete surprise. Like Alicia did not tell me about this. So that made it even more fun because I found out, I think like 4 days before we were supposed to take off. And I was like, oh, God, okay.
I remember, I think where were we? Were we eating lunch? And I said something about, I was like, oh, I saw your thing. You had to cancel the episode. I was like, what are you doing? And you're like, well, I'm going to Japan. I was like, what? Like, so casual.
It was so last minute. My sister had been planning on going for a while, and she asked me at the top of this year if I would go with her. So I knew she was going forever ago. And I was like, you know what? I can't. Not only did I go to Africa at the top of this year, but I knew I had Italy coming up.
Yeah. Freaking
And I was like, listen, that is a lot. Like, there's no way I can do Japan as well financially. So like, you go like do your solo travel thing and have so much fun.
Yeah.
And her surprising me was like out of nowhere, but I had a blast. It was fun traveling with just Alicia. We haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
Little sister bonding. And it was great. We ate so much. I keep saying food, but like that's literally all we did.
But that's like when you travel, that's the thing. Like you go to cool restaurants, like you eat like cultural food, you like do all the, I mean, it's a very big part of like memories of traveling.
Absolutely.
So
like you want to dive into the culture. So it was an absolute blast. Taryne held down the fort while I was gone.
I did.
How have you been, Taryne?
I've been good. I
feel like you need to address your passport.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. It is my fault ultimately, but also like it's borderline not my fault. We'll see.
It's gray.
I am going to Italy, obviously. I've known about this trip forever. So that's where it falls on me because I should have checked like immediately. Once I committed, like I'm going, I should have checked my passport.
Yeah.
But like early last month, I was like, oh, I should just check and like make sure everything's in line. I checked my passport. It expired 2 years ago. So I'm like, okay, well, whoops. So I immediately went on, did the whole expedited thing, which states 4 to 6 weeks, which I was like, perfect. It like falls right under it. And then like after you do that, you're just like in the dark. Yeah. So you can like go check the status. And I say that with air quotes very intentionally because all it basically tells you is like in process. Like that's all it tells you. So I've been checking the status like daily for over a month now. And you can't do anything until 2 weeks prior to your trip. You can call.
Yeah.
There's like a number. So I call the number. The guy basically tells me like, oh, well, it's in process. I can't tell you anything else. Right. And I'm like, cool. So it still hasn't come. We leave like on Saturday.
Like 5 days.
It's Monday.
Yeah.
So I am like freaking out. My friend has a guy. I called the guy. The guy's like, call your local congressperson. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't even know what that means. So anyways, I finally just got a hold of someone today. And either they're going to find where my passport actually is to see if I can get it in time, or I'm going to have to go to a federal building and basically stay there all day to get like a same day passport and have to like dish out money for it, which at this point, like, that's fine.
You got to do what you got to do. You already bought the ticket.
I literally hadn't told a single person because I don't know if this can relate to you. I feel like we're a little bit different. I feel like you don't tell people stuff like that because you don't like the feeling of like, they're going to judge me or I'm going to feel like I'm in trouble the way they react. Yeah. Am I right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. For me, I am so scared of like worrying other people. I'm like, I don't want anybody else to be worried. Also, my anxiety level was already so high that if I saw someone else getting anxious, it would have kicked me overboard. Yeah. So finally today, for the first time in like over a month of being freaked out, I was like, Ash, I haven't told anybody this, but like, I don't have my passport. Thank God I did, though.
Dear God, yeah.
Because I just thought there was like no other option. But Ash immediately was like, oh my gosh, reach out to this person, because I know they got a passport fast. So.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's just expensive.
It's
expensive and it's time consuming. So,
but at this point, I've already spent so much money on a plane ticket, hotel.
Yeah.
Clothes. So I'm like, either way, like me not going is almost more expensive. So I just need to do it. I need to figure it out.
If you do what you got to do at this point, we just got to get your ass to Italy.
So that's where my stress level is. But I'm feeling good now that there's like some things like in motion. Yes. I'm feeling better. But other than that, I'm good. I'm good. Well, I mean, they all know they got a massive dish of me last week. So
true.
I don't need to catch them up on anything. They know everything about me now. Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Safe. Spring is in bloom, and you know what comes next? Vacation season. Let's go. But before you pack your bags, be sure to secure your home with Simply Safe Home Security. With Simply Safe, enjoy greater peace of mind knowing your home is monitored around the clock by trained agents ready to act and defend against break-ins, fires, and other threats.
The other day, I was traveling and I got a notification from my camera telling me that someone was at my door. And it was so comforting being able to just click the notification, open the camera, see who was there, see what was going on while I was in another country. And something like that just is so game changing, especially when you live alone. Even if you have a family that you live with, being able to check in on them when you're not there is so nice. Even if you're just checking in on your furry pets.
Right?
Like, it's so comforting to have that control. And that's why we love Simply Safe so much. So let me tell you a little bit about Simply Safe. Simply Safe has Fast Protect technology for fast response, which enables monitoring agents to visually verify that the threat is real and conveys eyewitness evidence to 911 dispatch for fast police or fire response, which is so incredible when there's an actual real threat. And like I said earlier, you can control from anywhere, anytime. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, you can stay connected from anywhere, anytime. Arm or disarm your system remotely, check your cameras to make sure everything is okay, or even unlock the front door to let a guest in. Simply Safe is easy to set up, and you can choose professional installation also if you're not that savvy. But let me tell you, Simply Safe ships everything to your door, and it is so easy to set it up yourself. It honestly takes about 30 minutes. Or again, like I said, you can have Simply Safe certified technicians install it for you. Easy peasy. And with financing through Affirm, you can secure your home today and pay over time in installments that fit your budget. So no big chunk of money out the door.
Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/advice. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off your order with interactive monitoring. That's simplysafe.com/advice. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
All right.
Let's get into it,
Let's
Ash.
get into it.
So happy you're back.
Y'all know it's my favorite part of the episode when we do a Tearing It Up, the funny section. This one is titled Sleepwalking into Another Person's Dorm Room.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Intrigued. Hey girls, earlier today I thought about this embarrassing situation because I sent my friend a funny video of someone sleepwalking while eating pickles. After years of attempting to shove it out of my mind, sometimes I relive my most embarrassing experience and then shove it back down again. I take pride in myself as someone who doesn't get embarrassed easily from little things like bleeding through my pants at the gym or accidentally holding a handshake for much longer than acceptable. Both of which have happened multiple times to me. But anyways, here is the story. When I was about 14 years old, she adds in parentheses, 5 years ago from now, I went to a summer ballet intensive training in order to hopefully get admitted to the year-long program for young professionals. This school was 8 hours from my hometown and was a month long, so it was the first time I was away for such an extended period of time. All the girls were set up in dorm rooms with a partner, except my partner never showed up.
Wow.
It's like lucky, but then also like lonely. Pros and cons at that age.
She's traveling?
She's at a school, ballet school, for 8 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see that I don't think I would like.
You would want,
but
like,
if
a
it
buddy.
was like a dorm room in college, I'd be like, yeah, I'm cool to be by myself.
One night, I was sleepwalking, which she is a sleepwalker.
That sucks.
Background story. And I accidentally walked out of my room and down the hall into another person's room.
Oh my God.
Of course, I don't remember any of this because I was sleeping. So all I remember is waking up because someone was saying, Psst, I think someone's in our room. I woke up very confused and came to find out that I was the unwanted visitor in the room. I quite literally, walked down the hall about 5 rooms over into another girl's dorm room and, in all caps, she writes, got into bed with her.
You're joking me.
And went back to sleep. How terrifying would that be? You're sleeping and then you either wake up and watch someone get in your bed or you wake up to someone in your bed. Either way, terrifying.
She's so lucky because I would murder, straight up murder someone.
A lot of people's like gut reactions would be punch, stab, kick, push off the bed.
Yeah.
You know, something violent because you're going to assume that's an intruder. Yeah.
I'm like in shock.
Yeah. Walked out of her dorm, down the hall, into another girl's dorm where there's 2 girls in there and crawled into bed with one of them to fall back asleep.
My gosh.
She continues, I woke up truly horrified from what had just happened. I didn't know these girls and they were now screaming since I was in one of their beds with them. I apologized and rushed out of the room to somehow find my way back to my room. I called my mom sobbing and told her everything that had just happened. The next morning in ballet class, those girls were laughing at me and staring. And I mean, honestly, I can't blame them. I would have also been terrified to wake up to a stranger in my bed. I hope you guys, yeah.
Well, I hope she explained to them.
I know. I hope, like, I understand the embarrassment and I understand them being terrified and then I understand them being mean and like joking about it also. If you didn't give them any background of like, I have a sleepwalking problem.
If you didn't,
then
it
it's
almost
weird.
makes it look like you were like hitting on them, like trying to get in bed. And then when they didn't receive it, you're like, sorry, and left.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure she explained
I'm
it.
assuming you did, but she also didn't write that down. So I don't know.
Dead.
She writes, I hope you guys got a good laugh from my horrific story that I will never be able to live down. After that, I had to block doors with a suitcase, deadbolt the door. She adds in parentheses, which in this storm, they didn't have, unfortunately. And I now put things on the ground, so hopefully I'll fall and wake up before leaving my room. After a few years, I rarely sleepwalk now, but sometimes this embarrassing moment walks back into my conscious mind for a few hours, and I need to share it with y'all. So much love.
So good.
Maya.
That's like a movie. That is a great
movie.
embarrassing moment to have.
That's like the perfect, that would be such a great like teen movie. Like you go to ballet school and you're there for 8 weeks. You're with strangers, you're dorming, and you have a sleepwalking problem.
Dude, I can't.
Pitch it.
Sleepwalking is so fascinating to me. I don't think I ever have. I think maybe I used to like talk a little bit in my sleep, and I used to be like move like crazy. Like I would wake up, like my head would be where my feet were. You know what I mean? But both of my brothers have had sleepwalking issues. And one of them was actually scary. Ryan, when he was a baby, like I'm talking in his diaper, his little tiny little body. My neighbor happened to be coming home at like 2 a.m. and slammed on her brakes because she saw like a baby walking down our alleyway to get like out of the house, barefoot, just crying. And so she picked him up and then walked into our house and was like, hello. And my mom was like so scarred by that. So then we had like alarms on all the doors and everything.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And then Brett, I remember I was sleeping in his room when we were little, like in the bunk beds. And I woke up to him just standing in front of his closet. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm looking for earmuffs. And I was like, why? And he's like, the baby won't stop crying. And I was like, okay, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so then I kept trying to like get him to stop, and he was like very agitated. So he like walked out of the room. He's gonna get so mad at me for telling this. He walked out of the room. And do you remember like back in the day how it was like in to have those toilet covers that were like carpet on the top of toilets?
Yeah.
So we had one of those, and I walk in and he's just peeing all over it. So then I'm like, Mom, and I'm like running. I'm like, Brett, something's wrong with Brett. And I'm like freaking out.
Yeah.
And he literally didn't talk to me for so long because he said I made it all up. Like he didn't believe me in the morning. He was so freaked out by it.
That's so funny.
But like, what if you commit a murder? Like, how do you even prove like if you were, you know what I mean?
If you were asleep or not.
I wonder if that's ever been done. I'm
I
totally
don't know.
going to look that up.
I don't know. I definitely had a sleepwalking phase, and I remember one time specifically I woke myself up because I woke up on the stairs because the way our house was set up, my mom's always been a little more on the paranoid side. I've always had an alarm in my house, like even ever since I was little. And our house was a 2-story house, so the alarm wasn't upstairs, it was downstairs.
Yeah.
So you couldn't go downstairs without turning off the alarm. In my sleep, I went downstairs, and once you pass a certain level on the stairs,
like a motion sensor?
the motion sensor.
Oh, that makes sense.
triggered
That makes
me.
sense.
So
Yeah.
I woke up on the stairs to the alarm going off, and I was freaking out and crying because I didn't know what was happening or how
like
I got
where
there.
you were.
But that was kind of it. Alicia never really had
Terrifying.
it. So
Yeah, no. Wow. That's crazy.
yep.
That was a great story, though. I would tell it all the time. You shouldn't be embarrassed.
I think it's
a great
an
story.
amazing story.
Okay. Let's jump on in.
Let's do it.
This story is titled, I love the title of this. My therapist left and it feels like a death.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that. Okay. This is from Anonymous, which is just so sad because they have a really cool name,
Ugh.
but you'll never know.
You'll never know.
I'll tell you later.
Okay, perfect.
Hello, girls. I love you so, so much. All caps. So she really means it. You are a constant companion to me throughout all my days. And honestly, I have not found a podcast that suits me as well as yours. Love you both. Taryne, thank you for your content online that has inspired me to work on my anxiety and overcome my awful body image. And Ashley, I grew up watching you and Alicia and could not be more grateful in the ways that you shaped my life.
Oh, cute.
So emo. I love it. Anyways, I'm going to get into my life situation at the moment. I'm in high school. I'm 16 years old, and I don't have many friends. And I like my relationships with 20, 30-year-olds because somehow I relate to them and you guys more than I do the people my own age. I also tend to have better friendships with people a year younger than me. I genuinely don't know why, but this does contribute to my story. I decided to go to therapy at the end of 2022 as I was extremely anxious and lonely and needed someone to talk to. I really got inspired by you two to go, and those 6-ish months have been the best I've had in a while. Then, out of the blue, right when I was just really opening up to my therapist, she decided to leave the practice. I have absolutely no hatred to her at all, and we left things on very good terms, and I am forever grateful to for my time with her. The problem is I feel like we really developed a sort of friendship in that therapy time. Obviously didn't break any boundaries. My mom is a therapist, so I know all of them. And I was devastated when she left. She is about 30 and she feels like someone who could be in my life for a very long time if she would have stayed in it. I know she feels the same way about me, and I'm so grateful that she enjoyed my company as much as I enjoyed hers. Now, I'm still the same old, lonely, anxious teenage girl who has so many obstacles every day that I shouldn't have at such a young age, and I still need therapy. Even though we did work through some things in my time with her, I found a new therapist, but I haven't met her yet, and I'm so terrified because I have to start over. What if we don't develop the same bond? It's so scary, and all throughout this, I can't contact my old therapist, so it feels like a death. I'm again so lonely, and I just feel so sad that my old therapist is gone, and I'm so scared about having to start over again. It took me so long to open up to my old therapist, and what if this takes the same length or even longer? I don't think I can wait another 6 months to really get into it. I just feel hopeless and tired of worrying. Please send any advice you have about making this transition as good as it can be. I love you, Anonymous. But she sent an update.
Ooh.
Update. I met with my new therapist today, and I cried all the way home because she was nothing like my old therapist, and I feel so hopeless about what to do. She was not my vibe, but everyone is telling me to wait it out. I'm just so sad about my old therapist leaving. Anonymous. It was funny because I was reading this and I had like all this stuff set in my mind, but then this is a very key change. So it changes everything. Yeah.
That's so tough.
Yeah.
It is not fair in any situation in life to compare one person to another.
Yeah.
No one person is the same. The fact is, like, you'll never find a therapist like your old therapist.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never find a person, another human being that's just like your old therapist. So as difficult as it is, you really need to make sure that you don't compare anyone in your life to that person, because there is no other that person. You know, there's only one. So it's not fair. It's not fair to compare. And I say that a lot to, like, I feel like in relationship stories that people send in, they'll be like, oh, like, well, you know, my ex was like this. And it's like, okay, well, let's not do that. So definitely try your best to cut that out.
Which is so hard. Yeah.
It's hard, but like, you have to cut that out so that you can fully focus and be open to the possibility of a new relationship.
Yeah.
It's just like, after a breakup, you have to let go of your ex in order to move forward. It's the exact same situation. You've had a loss.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds silly because it's just a therapist, but you're so vulnerable and so open with your therapist that it's sometimes a stronger relationship than a familial relationship, or like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or something like that. So I wouldn't be I'm not shocked that you're sad and missing that person. It makes total sense to me, but you do have to get yourself into a place where you're not comparing and you're open to the possibility. If it's not this new girl, that's fine. Like, maybe you'll have to try a few more times before you find someone else who you vibe with, but they're never going to be your old therapist.
Yeah, and I think too, it's funny because it is, I liken a lot of the things I'm going to say to like a romantic relationship, which like,
it's funny how they go hand in hand.
Yeah. I mean, relationships in general are so similar if they just have different like lenses, right? But, you know, it's, to me, when a friend is like, missing a guy who was like actually the worst.
Yeah.
But they went through a very big like chapter of life with that person.
Yeah.
So it's, and I'm always encouraging them to strip away the person and acknowledge the chapter.
Yeah.
So with your therapist, obviously she wasn't like a toxic person. So like not with that lens, but she was the first person that you took a vulnerable step to go get help, which, by the way, like, amazing.
Yeah.
So proud of you. You took a vulnerable step. You opened up and shared pieces of your life that you haven't with anybody else, which is a very deep and heavy process. So that makes sense why you feel so connected to her. And so when you move on to other therapists, they aren't going to be the same because it's not going to feel as heavy as it did that first time.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, instead of like being like, oh, she's not like my therapist, be like, dang, I'm so thankful that like I had that person, and you can still look back at that time, which it sounds like you kind of are already, and being thankful for who she was at that time. And I do believe people are in our lives for chapters,
Absolutely, yeah.
The other thing I will say, I do think you should give a new therapist maybe like at least 2 to 3 sessions.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes they have different techniques, challenging
yeah,
techniques.
I had a therapist that I immediately left and was upset because I was like, she's just not my vibe too. I did wait it out a little bit, and it's funny because she still wasn't my vibe. Like at the end of it, I still was like, I need someone who's like a different style. But out of all of the therapists that I've seen, I sound like out of my whole roster of therapists, she was one of the people who helped me to break through in an area that still has had an impact on me to this day.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because I was like, ugh, about her the whole time. But in one of our sessions, like a massively foundational thing happens that I'll forever be thankful to her,
Yeah.
So I think like it's worth giving a chance to see if you guys come into a rhythm and vibe with it. But at the end of the day, if you're not vibing with her, move on. Like find someone else who's your style. Every therapist at their core is just a human being, and they have personalities.
1,000%.
So you might not vibe with her, and that's fine. So find someone else. And now you've seen her and you're like, okay, she was very like dry. I do want someone who has a more like personal thing. So the next time you're looking at a therapist and you ask them about their style, you know what to look for. So don't be discouraged. Like this is a normal part of the process. And if you go to a therapist and you hate them, then you're like, okay, cool. Well, now I know like they're not for me. And you go to the next person. You're like one step closer to finding someone that you vibe more with.
Absolutely.
Today's episode is brought to you by Canva. Creating visual content is an essential part of what we do, but the creative process hasn't always been easy. We discovered we had a really hard time with taking what we brainstorm and putting it into physical product.
That is a process right there. Yeah.
Me and Ash are queens at just all the ideas of how we want to be organized, the content we want, all these things. But
Zero follow through.
That is until we met Canva for Teams. It has been easy to collaborate and design with our team, which makes the whole process so much more fun and creative.
Canva for Teams is a design platform that makes it easy for anyone to create stunning content in any format, from social media posts to videos, presentations, and websites. The endless templates and premium fonts, photos, graphics, and videos add personality and edge to our team's content. As we have grown as a podcast, so has our team. So it has been so nice to have this program where we all get to stay connected. We can all share each other's thoughts there, and even having things like our brand colors and our logo available on the website makes creating content that much easier. And Canva for Teams has a video editor that is so user-friendly with tons of filters, animations, and transitions that will bring your group's content to life. And Canva for Teams enables you to take your presentation to the next level with professionally designed presentation templates. Plus, the remote control feature means you can virtually connect and navigate slides from any device, which is so handy.
Collaborate with Canva for Teams. Right now, you can get a free 45-day extended trial when you go to canva.me/advice. That's canva.me/advice for a free 45-day extended trial. Canva.me/advice.
I think in situations like this, it's good to kind of view it as more of like a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds like you're looking for someone to have maybe more of a conversation with, to be a little more maybe emotional with you, to be a little more empathetic with you. But I think you'd be surprised. I'm not saying this is going to work out, but I think you'd be surprised how, let's say you end up with a more bold person, a little more upfront, maybe not as like conversational and a little more aggressive. I think you'd be surprised how far you might jump when it's a little quicker that way instead of being more empathetic.
Yeah.
Like there's pros and cons to both techniques. That's why it's so important to find someone you vibe with.
Yeah.
But maybe challenge yourself, give yourself a month with that person.
Yeah.
And really be open to the possibility of them maybe even being able to help you jump even farther faster because of how blunt they are. Like sometimes being a little more empathetic takes time to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Or you
other
can
times people can be like, well, why are you wasting your time doing this when you know you should be doing this? And sometimes we need to hear that.
Yeah.
So give yourself, I agree with Taryne, give yourself a few sessions and see how it goes, but let yourself challenge yourself to actually give that person a chance.
Yeah.
If it's a no-go, that's totally fine. It's not their fault. It's not your fault. Just move on, find someone else, but you might be surprised.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
And I do think, I mean, I have a kind of opposite opinion or view of having to like reopen up and go through a whole story again. And it's funny because I remember telling you this, Ash, because when you started going to your therapist, I remember one time you were like, ugh, I just like don't want to like
get into
like, I don't want to tell this again.
Yeah.
And I remember like encouraging you, and I've told this to many people. If you pay attention, every single time you open up about something, there's some new revelation that happens.
Yeah.
And I really do think first of all, the way that you tell the story starts to change.
Yeah.
And if you're paying attention to that, you're like, interesting that these are the details that like I wanted to continue telling, whereas this doesn't seem to be as important.
Yeah.
You learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes, even to this, I literally went through my breakup. I'm not joking, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The other day I was talking to my sister about like some like fight or something we had. And I was like, huh. And I had this like revelation about like, I wonder if that's why like I am this way. And like we were talking about it. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
I've obviously talked about my breakup plenty of times. Like I've moved on. Like I'm very, very much removed from like that version of myself. But it's amazing how much is like buried within us. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we think like, oh, cool, I like told someone something, now I can just move on with my life.
Yeah.
But the more that it comes up, the more that you speak about it, the more that you process it, it loses power over you.
Yeah.
And I think you start to sift through like what really is underneath it all.
Yeah.
So I know it's overwhelming to be like, oh, I don't want to like go through this whole thing again. But I think if you go into it thinking more strategic, like, oh no, I'm excited to tell this because I'm excited to hear another perspective on it. I'm excited to see, wow, I didn't cry when I talked about that. Like, I think like I'm starting to heal and not be as emotional about this or whatever it is. So I would try to change your mindset on that and see it as a cool opportunity instead of an inconvenience.
Yeah,
you know?
I completely agree.
Ugh, therapy, man.
Therapy,
I need
man.
a therapist so bad. I really
Therapy
do.
is hot, as they say.
Therapy is hot.
By our totes.
By our totes. They're totes awesome.
Subliminal messaging by our totes.
By our totes. But thank you so much, Anonymous, for writing in. Do not be discouraged. It's going to be okay. You're going to find someone that you vibe with. And I think if you just jump into this, you'll be surprised by the outcome. But thank you so much for being vulnerable with us, and we love you so much.
Yes. Okay, are you ready for mine?
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to dive into it, guys. Here we go. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Ladies. Fairly new listener of the podcast, and I love it. I can't turn you guys off while I'm at work. Thank you for helping me get through the day. She puts her name. She says she'd like to be anonymous, even though she's sure no one cares. Anywho, I wanted your advice on if you consider OnlyFans to be cheating.
Oh, I love this.
I know. Fun
get
topic.
into it.
A little context. My husband and I have been together for 7 years, going on 8. We started long distance, which she adds in parentheses, it's not as hard as people think as long as you make the time and effort to see each other like once or twice a month.
Okay.
We lived together for 6 years, and when we moved in, at one point, I was using his laptop one day, and yeah, I was being kind of nosy, and I found some old nudes from girls in his past.
Oof.
I didn't love it, obviously brought it to his attention, and he deleted them. I thought that's fine, nothing to be upset about, it happens. But soon after that, I found out he was on a chat website paying to talk to girls, which hurt me so bad. We sat down and I tried to have a conversation with him about it because I consider it cheating. He, on the other hand, said, it's just porn and that's not cheating. And by the end, I just chose to forgive him as long as he didn't do it again. We'll skip a few years, and now I've given birth to our first kid. And I felt very insecure about my body and had awful postpartum depression and anger. And we are struggling with just one income at that time. I check his bank app to see how much we have because we need formula. And I see a charge from OnlyFans. I was obviously very hurt for 2 reasons. 1, why are you spending money when we don't have much money? And 2, because I told him already how I felt about that, regardless of how he views it. We got into a huge fight, and by the end of it, I forgave him. We now just had our second baby, and my body definitely did not bounce back fast with me having them so close together. He hypes me up and tells me I'm beautiful and that I look great all the time, but he did that last time too. I'm just nervous he's going to turn back to chat sites and OnlyFans, especially because I started back working right at my 6 weeks, and we work opposite schedules. How do I help ease my mind? Because it's all I think about some days, and it makes me feel even more insecure. Sorry this was so long, and I'm not even sure if you're going to read it on the podcast because of the spiciness. But I really hope to get to hear your advice. Also, I included some pictures, one of me and my husband and our girls, and then one of her 2 months postpartum. So that's her and her husband.
Can you turn it a little more?
Yes. I'm also going to brighten it.
Oh, yeah.
That's her and her husband.
Oh, I like your glasses.
That's her baby. That's the other baby.
I have baby fever so bad right now.
And that's her postpartum,
Okay,
which
you're
is
so hot.
I mean, same.
She's
That's
hot.
literally what I was
Yeah.
going to say. I was going to say, you look absolutely beautiful. Your babies are beautiful. You and your husband are beautiful. So let's just say that first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, I 1,000% view that as cheating.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to like dodge or like beat around the bush. I will say, I realize I've met plenty of people who don't view it as cheating, and that's fine for them. If they happen to find someone who also doesn't view it as cheating, sure.
Literally, I was just going to say that because I've gotten in this argument with so many people who, by the way, like, it's so annoying when I'm like, oh, I don't want that involved in a relationship that I have. And all of a sudden I'm like a prude and I'm like, oh, it's because you're a Christian. Blah, blah. I'm like, okay, first of all,
Yeah.
each person has their lines of what they're comfortable with
Everyone's
and
different.
what they're not.
Everyone is different.
I am not passing judgment to you if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't like it. I know of my comfort levels and where my insecurities lie and what I want and don't want. And if you really want to get into it, my senior thesis paper was on the effects of pornography on a relationship. So like I could get into detail if you want me to.
Yes.
But it's like either way, I don't need to defend what I'm comfortable with or not.
Yes.
And I hate that. So it's like, okay, if you want that in your relationship, that's great. But your partner deserves the courtesy of you checking with them of if they're comfortable too.
Yes.
If one person's not comfortable with something, it can't happen.
Yeah.
It can't happen.
Something I like to kind of think about it as is like, imagine that your partner, let's take it up a notch. Imagine your partner wants to add a third in the relationship.
Oof.
What if they didn't ask you?
Yeah.
That's cheating.
Yeah.
That's 1,000, no question about it. That's cheating. Like if they just assumed that was okay with you.
And also, okay, so this guy's argument, this is where I'm just like, I would love to like have you is it anonymous? I can't
Anonymous.
remember. Okay, anonymous. I would love to have you here to just like ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Because here's okay. It's just porn. Oh, okay. So, there's like how many sites you can watch that stuff for free?
Yeah.
So if
Why are
it's
you
the
paying?
same exact thing, you know how I feel about where the line is drawn, but you still paid to go on this chat thing so that you could be, the only difference is that there's a personal interaction.
Yeah.
And then we had that huge fight, and then you paid again to go where you're personally following a specific person that you know versus just Googling.
That was the next thing I was going to say. That's the big
BigBooties.com or
difference
whatever.
between OnlyFans and
Exactly.
porn, right?
So you kind of messed yourself up.
You're actually supporting one single person versus a website.
You messed up because it is the same thing to an extent, but there's a personal connection there, and that is the thing that crosses the line for your partner.
Yeah.
And she has told you that.
Yes.
And if she views it as cheating, then I'm sorry, but that's where you guys chose to be committed and to spend a lifetime respecting each other.
Yeah.
It's not like she's saying, I saw you make eye contact with the waitress.
Yeah.
That's
It's not
cheating to
unrealistic.
me.
Yeah.
No, it is a bigger topic.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, if he can't go to his mom and dad and his wife's mom and dad and plead his argument and still not be ashamed or embarrassed to talk to them about this topic, then that's where you know right there that it's wrong.
Yeah. And I again want to say, like, I have had friends in the past who even like not taking a turn, but like she would watch stuff with her husband or with her boyfriend, and that's something they did together, and they were okay with it. And I remember her having like kind of a little bit of like issues later on after she had already agreed and done stuff like that, and I was like, well, you can't get mad at him for what, like, if you're watching it with him, I'm assuming he's watching it without you too. Like, did you lay down rules where it can only be together? Like, this is something that I think couples need to talk about. And is it a fun conversation? No, but like, at least you'll know where the lines are. Like, if you never told him that porn was a problem for you, then I'm not shocked he had it or had watched it, because you had never drawn that line. Like, if you are, especially if you're going to allow porn, I think the line needs to be clear. Like, if you are going to allow it, then it, or it's something that you guys watch together, then like it's only together, never separate. Like, it's, whatever. Or I don't know, whatever the rule is for your relationship it just needs to be clear.
Yeah. And I think honestly, this is, I mean, even if we don't talk about this topic, right? Like, I think that's relationally with anything. I think it's having that open communication ahead of time. And again, not rushing into relationships without dishing out like, okay, in life, here are things that affect me. Yeah. And like, here are things I'm looking for in a partner.
Even if like they struggle with alcohol, like you need to talk about that stuff and make it clear when you can and cannot drink.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you need to find like, what are your hard lines and what are things you're willing to make a compromise over. In anything. It literally can be anything. I just was talking to a friend because I was on a dating app and I saw this really hot guy. Well, I scrolled down and his last photo, he freaking killed Bambi and is just holding up its dead head like it's nothing. And I just was like, so we had this big talk because I was like, I don't know if I could date someone like that. Because in one hand, I'd want to be like, obviously, like, that's your hobby and you're passionate about it. Like, go have a boys' day, go do whatever. But then I would literally have to live my whole life being like, don't ever show me pictures, don't ever talk to me about it, because when an animal gets hurt, I am hurt, okay? Like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, where would I find that line? And what would our marriage look like if we didn't have detailed conversations about that? And then years down the road, he's like, I want to put Bambi's head on her wall because I'm proud of it. And my dad had Bambi's head on his wall. And he always told me, when you grow up, you're a man when you put Bambi's head up on your wall. And it's this huge deal to him. And I'm like, absolutely not, you know?
You're like, go get a shed, put it up on that wall.
Exactly. But it's like you run into these hiccups down the line. Even I've heard some relationships struggle over tattoos.
Yeah.
Because the wife wants to go get a tattoo and the guy's like, absolutely not. And it's like, what? No, like I like tattoos.
Yeah.
But it's like all of those things, you need to have conversations and weed out where each other's lines are before you go into it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if something comes up in a relationship and you're upset and you feel like you are being disrespected, it's the other person's job to acknowledge that.
Yes. So what I would say is clearly you've had this conversation with him 3 times-ish. At that point, in my opinion, he is being disrespectful. You've made it very clear how it makes you feel and what it does to you, and he's still choosing to do it. The only other thing I would suggest, obviously you need to sit him down and talk about it, but I'd be so curious if you were to sit him down and be like, what can we do as a couple
Exactly. Yes.
to fulfill this need that you have where we can take porn off the table, and what's something we can do to spice it up? Like, what is something I can do as your wife?
Yeah.
Because that's meeting him halfway.
Yeah.
You know, it's not saying, hey, because especially with like postpartum, I know like jumping back into a sexual relationship after that is hard and it's different, and every woman is different in their postpartum journey. But like there's other stuff you can do if you want to have a conversation about that and like give him the option to like bring something to the table. Yeah. And you don't have to say yes to it, obviously, like it's your decision, but like what is something that you can do as a couple so where that he's feeling heard and seen and fulfilled, and you don't have to sit there and worry about him cheating on you with all of these rando pictures, you know?
Yeah, because she asked that, like, how do I trust him? And that's hard. Like, that's hard. I mean, that's a hard thing to get over when, in general, when you feel like your trust has been broken. Like, how do you get back to that? That's a really hard thing to come back from without having to, like, literally be like, oh, I need to, like, mirror your phone. I need to have your, like, our internet
next level.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I do think, you know, and it makes me sad because, you know, obviously, like, I grew up very like in a very like little bubble, and I remember even to say the word porn was like, you don't talk about it. Like, only rapists and murderers watch that, and you don't ever talk about it. It's so inappropriate and all these things. So when I got into, even in college, I was like, you don't talk about it. Yeah. And I know some people listening to this right now, and probably mostly that have grown up religious, are like, oh my gosh, covering their ears. Like, we don't talk about this topic. But I think that in general has done so much damage to a lot of people because whether we like it or not, there are a lot of things people are exposed to at a young age that can have an impact on them.
Even movies, and even commercials.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I went into college, and it was funny because I did my like senior paper on that, because I saw my reaction when in classes they would talk about it, and I would immediately be like, yeah, this is dirty. We don't talk about it. Yeah. And I couldn't just focus on like, what mentally is this doing? And like what happens when a boy who's like 11 gets exposed to these images and doesn't understand like what he's watching or whatever it is. Yeah. So for me, when I started studying it and learning about the effects it have and learning about how men's actual like brains work and how they're visually stimulated and all these different things, then it became something that I still don't I don't want involved in anything in my relationship, but I'm able to still look at it and say like, oh, okay, like I understand why this can affect someone. And I understand that like some people do want this, and it does help some people in what they want in their relationship. So I think because sometimes we're so scared to talk about certain topics because we're like, oh, this is like dirt. Nobody talks about it. So we don't talk in front of a relationship about like, hey, like I should be able to sit with a person and be like, hey, I want to talk about porn. Like, do you watch it? Yeah. Like, what is your history with it? Like, how do you view it? Like, what do you feel Like, do you see yourself wanting this in a relationship? Because to me, that's important.
Yeah.
So instead of just like avoiding topics and then years down the road, I am checking histories and seeing bank records and being like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, we've already laid out what is okay and what is not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a topic, like, if you do approach and talk to him, I would make sure to try to avoid making him feel like too much like shame and embarrassment.
Or treating him like a child.
Yeah. If he's able to sit there and explain why he has this need, whatever. Now, that is separate from the boundary side of it.
Yeah.
So it's not, I'm judging you for this, especially if he has like a past where like that's just something he's been addicted to.
Yeah.
So you address that without making him feel ashamed and embarrassed. But then you go, okay, but now we're going to talk about the fact that I am not comfortable with this and you're choosing to not respect my boundary.
And you're still doing it.
Yeah, it's two things in the same topic, if that makes sense.
Correct.
But again, it's the whole communication. Like if we didn't let shame and embarrassment and secret natures and I'm giving my best foot forward, but I really am a different person. If we just were able to be open and talk to people and have hard conversations, it would make a lot of this stuff easier.
1,000%. And I'm so curious. If this could simply be fixed by you giving him like a choice of, okay, well, what can we do? I'm so curious after you talk to him about him hurting you repeatedly by choosing to do this. And after you talk about, is this a problem or is this just a preference? Like after you sort through all of that, I really want you to ask him like what you guys can do together. Taryne mentioned like obviously a lot of guys are stimulated visually. Like maybe that means you buy a cute outfit.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that means you do something a little more visual together and maybe that'll help him.
And not just him, like you. Like what do you want too? Like this is an opportunity for both of you to find a connection again, you know?
It could actually be a really fun after you sort through everything seriously again. It could be a really fun conversation for you guys to be like, okay, like what are you okay with and what am I okay with and how can we do this together to kind of like spice things up again post 2 kids? Like that's, you know, that's a spot.
I'm all, how do you feel about wearing a Darth Vader mask? That's where my future is.
How do you feel about throwing some Legos around?
How do you feel about being on a bed of Legos?
This is so niche.
Do you like pain?
This is so niche. But like, that's the whole thing. Different things do it for different people, and it's about having that open conversation and not being judgmental.
And again, I'm a virgin. Like I literally haven't even had sex, but I'm able to talk about that. It's a difference of knowing who you are, knowing what you believe and what you want, but not being afraid to tackle deeper topics. Like it's just, I hate that there's like, I know how much I felt so scared to talk about things or to ask questions that as a young girl, I really struggled with and would have helped me tremendously if I could have just talked about something.
Exactly.
And each of us have our own area within coming into who we are, how we view our bodies, how we view like intimate relationships, and he has his own. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like you need to sit with him and have like these blunt conversations where you can think it's disgusting. And I'm gonna be honest. I read this and I'm like, really, bro? Like, you really have to be like chatting with them? Like, gross. But for him, if it's coming from a deeper place and there's a deeper issue, if he reads that you're disgusted by him and there's shame, he is going to clam up. Yeah. So it's just being strategic about like, okay, if I'm really wanting to get to the bottom of this, not just saying like, hey, if you don't stop doing that, I'm out, which you can also do.
It's a great option.
If you're wanting to get to the deeper part of it, then like have that conversation and let him be open without feeling scared of like how you're going to react.
And how do you do that? I've said this on episodes before. If you are trying to do the latter, like Taryne said, where you're trying to have a more open conversation and you're trying to be more understanding, go out to dinner.
Yeah.
Maybe pour yourselves a glass of wine And like, don't make it scary. Don't make it to where you're talking down at him and, you know, he's in trouble. But like, sit down and be like, so, porn, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, here's how I feel about it. I want to hear how you feel about it. And then once you sort through that, be like, okay, like, what can I do to get us past this and to get porn off the table? Like, porn's a no-go for me. So what can we do together?
I was going to say, not even like
out.
Like it's your responsibility to fix it.
Yeah.
But like you just said, if you feel like something's missing, can you tell me what's missing?
Yeah.
And then let's meet together on what we're both comfortable with.
Yeah. Think of it and try to send this message along. Think of it more as like a brainstorm. Like, you guys are a couple, you guys are in a partnership, you're in a commitment together, and you need to get past this bump. Like, how do we get this off the table so that we can both be happy and satisfied together? So like, what does that look like? Let's spitball things out and just see where we land.
Yeah. And I mean, you have kids now, so that changes things, because I know that's where I would be like a lot less lenient if I have to worry about what's happening in the house with my kids.
Also, what was more of a slap in the face was the paying for the chat when money's tight.
You have kids that's
a whole other level.
I mean, we didn't even get into that. We're obviously talking about like the mentally bigger part, but I think also, and it sounds like you might be at that place, I think also you could lay a very, very heavy, like, hey, if you do not stop this, like, we're going to be done. Yeah. Like, we have a family to care about. So whether it's like, you know, he's willing to like go to therapy, he's willing to do whatever, but I think you do have some very hard lines you need to draw. But again, you can approach it where you attack the deeper issue. And then from there, you're like, okay, I love that we're under this understanding and I'm so excited to move forward. Yeah. But I need you to understand how serious this is to me. If this does not improve, or if I see another cent of our money that's supposed to go for the well-being of our kids being spent on this, I'm telling you right now that our marriage is in jeopardy.
Yeah. And even just being very upfront about like, our kids are not going to watch daddy zone out because their kids aren't dumb. They pick up on stuff like this. Like, they'll accidentally walk in, or they'll notice something, or they'll figure it out at some point in life. So even just being like, our kids are not going to watch you zone out and do your own thing and just ignore mommy and like not be interested in mommy or anything like that. Like, that's not going to happen.
No, yeah.
Just make that very clear.
Yeah.
But I'm very sorry you're going through this. Unfortunately, it's an extremely common thing. But I do think you have a couple ways to go about this. Yeah. And only you know which one resonates the most with you and your relationship. If you're fed up and you have to draw a boundary and, you know, go for it. Like, you have every right to. And I hope you feel validated in knowing that. Yeah. And if you want to make this work out, hopefully the conversation tactic that Taryne and I mentioned, hopefully that's a good route for you, because and if you feel open to sharing how it goes and giving us an update, please. I would be, if you have the conversation and you want to give us an update, would be so curious how it goes. Yep. But thank you so much for writing in. Yes. Great conversation.
No, I think it's an important, I know when I do have kids, everyone's like, oh, great. I was talking about like my future kids in my solo episode, and I started literally crying hysterically. So anyways, I've been it's bad. Me on vacation, I told my sister-in-law, I'm like, I literally was getting my mail at my apartment the other day, and like a dad walked in with like his little kid, and I thought he was the hottest man alive. But then I walked away and I'm like, no, you were attracted to like
dad,
him being like
a dad.
Yeah, like a dad, because you want like a man to raise kids with.
A daddy.
So then like literally we were like walking through the store, and this dad was like pushing a stroller, and like she saw my head turn and she goes, Taryne. I was like, oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm having like it's not even like baby fever. It's like daddy fever. Like I just like, I want a man to like raise kids with. Yeah. Anyways,
there was I forget what magazine.
I don't even know what I was saying something, and then I just got super distracted. But
I forget what magazine put it out, but I'm sure they all have. There was one magazine forever ago that put out a list of like hot dads at the time, and I remember like there was one of, I think it was Hugh Jackman, and he had like his baby. He was like in the middle of Wolverine like phase. So he was like ripped. He was like at the beach with his kid. And I just remember being like, dear God.
I know.
Like, oh my God.
I know. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I was saying, but anyways. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for writing in. If you want to feel more connected to us, go to our socials. We have a Insta, we have a TikTok, we have a YouTube that you can watch us. And then also don't forget to send in your stories.
Yes.
Because we need them. We love them. And that's all.
That's all we got. End this with a dad joke?
Oh my gosh. Ash.
I was like waiting for you to say it. And then I was like, is she closing us out? What's happening?
Ashley, do you know how much that means to me that
I should have just gone with it.
Yeah, because you know what would have happened? We would have ended it. And probably like tonight, I would have been like, oh, and I would have called you.
Or we wouldn't have noticed and the amount of comments that would have been like, you did it with the dad joke.
Wow. Okay. What does corn say when it gets a compliment? This is such a good one.
Corn. Something cob. Something ear.
I'm done.
Corn, maize, cornmeal.
Also, on the solo episode at the end when I did my dad joke, I also played the role of you and your guesses.
Oh.
I was like, if Ash was here, she would say, cup, soda.
I don't know.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Aw, shucks.
That's a good one.
Isn't it good?
That's a good one.
Okay, well, wow. Now we're really done.
Guys,
and we love
the
you.
drill. If you made it to the dad joke, we love you the mostest. Follow on everything. Send in your stories, and we'll talk to you next time.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.